Uh, Actually, first, from a show of hands, how many of you have listened to a podcast in the last month? That was more than I expected, but that's very encouraging. So Echo is a community for people that love podcasts, and it's a community where we talk about and discover new and interesting podcasts. So I'm going to talk about 2 reasons why I built it and demo it as I do that. So the first reason why I built Echo is that for me, and I think for a lot of you guys that listen to podcasts, is podcasting can be quite lonely. So what do I mean by that? So when you listen to radio, you might be in the car with your friends, TV, and watching sports, you might be with others. But for me, podcasts is me with my headphones on, listening to a podcast. So the first thing I did is you can see what your friends are listening to. So when you download it, you can import from the Apple Podcast app, or you can import it easily from a third-party app. So I'm just going to do from the podcast app. Press a button, and this is from the Apple Podcast app. These are what you're listening to. I can click all the ones I want to import. Click yes. Choose sign up from Facebook, and those that hate Facebook, there's an email option. So I'm going to click Facebook, and it's just going to stick me up with my Facebook logged in account. I'm going to click OK. And since I've already signed up, it's going to recommend my Facebook friends. So this is on my test account, so it's recommending me. And for all you guys, I can be your first friend too. And so you could add all your friends. And then if you want a recommendation when your friend recommends a podcast to you, you can click yes and get a push notification when that happens. So the first thing I want to showcase is what we did there was we built a profile. I've imported other podcasts before, but the ones I imported today are down at the bottom. I can click on people I follow, and so this is my roommate Renato right here. And so this is the podcast that he listens to. So the thing I wanted to get out of here is you might have friends that listen to podcasts, but you might not know what they listen to. I'm trying to build a social layer in between that so you can see what they listen to. And the other major thing you can do is you can echo out podcasts. So if you go to this community feed right here, you can see your friends, you can see what they listen to. You can see Renato has Planet Money, Monica over here as well is a friend. And so you could, the one major thing you can also do is you can click on an episode that you really like, and you can echo it out to people that follow you, and that's like you saying, hey, this is something you should really check out. And right now I'm building in a way that you can like add some context, so you can say, oh, this is a really cool episode because they explain this fact really well, right? So if you echo it out and you come back here and I'll refresh the feed, you can see it's down here, and you have echoed out something, and your friends will see that. So another cool thing that you can do, it shows that since I follow my real account, Danny, it shows that I have added 3 podcasts that are similar to a podcast that I've added to my profile. So because iTunes gives you genres, I can easily recommend podcasts based on the things you've already imported. So one, your friends can import it, or I can simply recommend stuff to you. So I said one, podcasting can be lonely, so it's good for you to see what your friends are listening to. The other thing is podcasting is decentralized, and it's really cool. So I didn't want to just throw a buzzword for the sake of throwing a buzzword, but so podcasting, what do I mean when I say podcasting is decentralized? So a lot of people think of podcasting as the digital evolution of radio. So why? Because you can download that audio file, play it at any time. But it's different than many other mediums. So it's very different than YouTube and Netflix because there's no one company that owns podcasts, right? So Apple doesn't own podcasts. You upload it, and whatever podcast player you use can just download it on your device, right? So that's what I mean when I say it's decentralized. But there are problems with decentralized systems. So one of them is if you use a different player than me, it's hard for you to recommend to me that you really like a podcast. So what I wanted to build with Echo was this social layer. No matter what podcast player you use, download Echo, you can recommend stuff you like, other people can see it, and I'm trying to build that social in between. So that was the other problem I'm trying to tackle. So if you love podcasts, it's out on the iOS and App Store. Right now, it's mostly just my Facebook friends and me. I haven't pushed it out on anyone else, except to you guys now. If you are an investor and are interested in funding something like podcasts, an app looking to tackle podcasts, it seemed so I looked up some of the numbers today. In this room, it seemed like 40 or 50%, but Edison says that 21% of all Americans listened to a podcast in the last month. That's up from 2008 when a podcast were introduced. It was 9%. But I think it has a long way to go because 93% of people have listened to the radio in the last month. So I think there's a lot of room for growth in this industry. So, and then if you are someone interested in building community, I'm trying to build this community of Echo. Come talk to me. I'd love to talk to you. And if you just like podcasts, I'm kind of podcast freak, so come talk to me. I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about. So thank you for your time, and let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Renato. Danny just called himself a super freak and didn't realize it. Any questions? I recommend you guys download it. It's a fantastic app. I'm obsessed with podcasts myself. Oh, yes, I like you.
Hi, this is really cool.
Thank you.
My one question is, once I've imported all my podcasts from whatever library, if I'm then go back to Apple or whatever player and listen to stuff, do you get that data, or do I have to come back into Echo and tell you what I did?
Well, it's a really good question. What Apple gives you is they give you an API for all the podcast subscriptions you have. I don't, and maybe for a good reason, they don't give you every podcast you listen to. So when you come back, you can at any time go to the search page. I guess I didn't fully demo it. You go to the search page, look up any podcast you want to do. So these are all the NPR podcasts. Click on a podcast, and you can add it to your favorites. It'll add to the profile. And one thing I should have showed is when you find an episode of a podcast you really like, if you use Apple Podcasts, if you use Overcast, you can click the play in button. It'll deep link into your podcast player and play it.
He's making it hard for me. Feel free to come on up. There you go. We'll meet you halfway.
How are you, or are you currently monetizing this? Do you
Good
have
question.
advertisements? Or?
Yeah, so it's a social network. So the main idea is, well, let's look at my profile, and then hopefully it'll. So if I look at my profile, it's pretty obvious that I like storytelling, I like NBA, and I like tech. And so like you get demographic data on who your audience is. So and there's also podcaster in the same Edison research study, the median income of average household in the U.S., a podcaster has a higher average income. So it's normally people that care about learning and are in a higher medium income bracket. So it is an ad network, but I think I could do it in a tasteful way. But right now, that kind of only works at scale. So right now, my goal is to get to 100,000 users and then think about monetization from there. Thanks.
Cool. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Danny. You should connect in with TELUS. What is TELUS?